Okay, so you really want to know, huh? Fine. I'm gonna start by telling you this. And this is important, so listen up. Your entire life, this one and many others, you've been a god who uses its absolute power to make yourself powerless. Entire cultures, especially this one, have all been afraid of their weaknesses, supposedly, when in reality, they've all been afraid of their power. This goes beyond the matrix of reality. This is something much deeper than that. This is eternal. This is fully realizing your consciousness. This is infinite. This is evolution. This is our divine right.
All right, everybody. Hello and welcome to this very special live edition of the podcast. I have my good friend, Jaclyn Steele, all the way out from Arizona. We have an amazing history as friends, and I'm really excited to be able to celebrate with her the 50th Bootsy Greencast, number 50. We made it. Here we are. I'm in some weird dungeon, but hey, we're still broadcasting live on the internet. Welcome, Jaclyn, to the show.
I'm in a hot box of an RV right now in the Arizona desert, so we are in good company, my friend. Congratulations on the 50th episode. I adore you and watching your evolution. I mean, how long have we known each other now? Like 5 years?
Something like that. Mm-hmm.
Watching you do all of the amazing things that you've done, from like being at Coachella and live streaming a Kanye concert on Sunday to like doing comedy on these cruise ships to doing this incredible soul work. You are just such an incredible guy.
Hey, I will say exactly the same thing about you. You've done so much, and we've had the opportunity, and it's been a pleasure to work together. You're a very talented musician. Yeah. You know, you are a coach. You did branding, market. I mean, I could go on and on about all the talents and skills and abilities that you have. And it's just been a pleasure to work with you. You know, you helped me and my mom with our short-term rental business when that was kind of going on. And I mean, the website looked amazing and really just, I don't know, just you're a joy to work with. So I'll put that out there for everybody. I'm sure your schedule's kind of packed, but Jaclyn's info is in the description below. And before we really kind of get into it, I do have a couple of things to plug really quick. I'll go ahead and talk about the first thing that I want to talk about today is the contact at the cabin thing that's gonna come up. I'm doing everything off my laptop today, so it's a little bit different. I'm usually a little bit I got the two screens, the nerd setup. But I've been super blessed and honored to be like a featured guest or something at this Grimerica event, Contact at the Cabin. That's me with Joe Roop, Brandon Powell, who's a breathwork instructor via Wim Hof. And that is going to be in Arizona. So I'm going to come and see you, Jaclyn. It's going to be amazing.
I can't wait.
I can't wait either. It's going to be super duper fun. Look, that's me. Holy cow. This guy's great. He teaches like hermetics and stuff like that. And I mean, all these guests, I mean, Darren Grimes is an absolute legend. So just because I plugged that, let me go ahead and talk about Content Safe because, they're out there making sure that this doesn't get taken down, and if you do edgy stuff, if you're a comic or if you're, trying to speak the truth out on the internet, these folks might be worth looking into. I'm a big fan of their business and we have a great relationship. We're friends. So I do recommend checking out Content Safe if that's something that you're interested in right now. I think they're still taking on premier clients, which is kind of a great deal. I am very happy with them and, just thought I would share. And so Jaclyn, you can find her at jaclynsteele.com. Look at that. I love this photo right here. Oh my God. Can we make this?
with little pipsqueak.
Oh, I don't have my Instagram login. Yeah, your dogs are so cute. But you've done a lot with your podcast, Self-Discovery, and I'm really excited to talk a lot more about that. You've just done so much. It's kind of hard to even give proper introduction, but let's start there. Let's talk a little bit about your podcast, how you started with that, and what you've cultivated there.
Yeah, I love that question, and I want to share that it's been simple. It has been a simple thing. And the reason I say that is because at the end of 2019, I just felt this inkling, and I felt like it was a divine inkling saying, you need to start a podcast. And at first, I felt some resistance around it. I was like, I don't understand the technology. What am I going to talk about? Who wants to listen to me? All of those things that people experience when they're about to do something they've never done before. And I remember just marinating on it. And the idea of self-discovery and the title of self-discovery just emerged. And again, it felt like it was a divine download. And so I started just speaking my heart. And it became something that was like, I want to light people up by normalizing the human experience. Like whatever it is we're going through, whether it's doubt, fear, joy, elation, excitement, enthusiasm, like all of these things that we experience, I want to talk about the in-between. In so many books, so many movies, so many stories, we hear people who have gone from like rags to riches, but we don't hear the in-between. And so in a lot of ways, my podcast is the idea behind it is to draw out these stories of the in-between for me, because I get really personal and honest on there, and for my guests. And over the it's been almost a year and a half now that I've been doing the podcast. The numbers are great. I think I'm at closing in on podcast number 70. Elena Brower, who is an author. I just recorded an episode with her. Nadine Artemis, who is this incredible skincare guru and author. So many people that in my dreams, I would have been like, that's who I want to have on the podcast, I've now interviewed. And so it's been a really cool experience in that way too, feeling like, hey, and I say this to everyone listening, when we have an intention to do something and we say to God, hey, here's my intention, use me, and we get specific about what we want, we really are very limitless people. Very, very limitless people. And the podcast has reflected that for me.
Well, I'm not surprised at all in the slightest. I'm already getting teared up, choking up on this podcast. Just in we've been on for like 7 minutes, and I'm already like tearing up because you're exactly right. I wouldn't be. I know it doesn't look super fancy if you're on YouTube, but I'm at my friend Paul's studio here, which is state of the freaking art. I mean, if I could show you around this place, you'd be blown away. I mean, it's like walking into a studio in LA or in downtown Atlanta or something, especially when you go into the other room. But his whole house is, this amazing sort of playground. And I'm fortunate enough to be able to come and share and work with him. We've shot a lot of different things. Live at the Print Shop is something that I've been able to help him with. And really, it's just because I set an intention, and what's been really interesting, and what I might like to talk about too, since you're really focused on process, is kind of like watching these things unfold and choosing as these options arise, because there's so many. Once you start like moving in that direction, it kind of gets easy to get overwhelmed with possibility.
Yeah, it does. It does, and I think a couple of things come to mind when you're talking about that. And actually, I've had a lot of people ask me about this. And when we start our path and we get clear on what we want to do and opportunities do start bubbling up, like you said, it can get really overwhelming. And I think something that's helped me, not that I'm perfect at this, but is doing a gut check and going, what opportunity feels like a hell yes for me versus I don't know. And consider fear in that too. Like sometimes fear, we confuse fear and excitement, those feelings. So if it's something that like you feel a little fear around, but there's also a lot of excitement, that's a good sign that that's the right decision for you. And then also, something that I think is so important is taking the effing pressure off of ourselves. One of my foundational beliefs is life is happening for us, not to us. So no matter what decision we make, the lessons that we're going to learn in that decision, even if it's perceived as something, maybe we shouldn't have done that, we're going to learn something that we need to know, like absolutely, undeniably need to know in order to take the next step in our path. So I like to view it too, like no decision that I make is going to be the wrong decision because it's going to teach me something. And that takes a lot of the pressure off. We put so much pressure on ourselves as humans to like get it right. But what does getting it right even mean? Aren't we just supposed to be evolving here?
Absolutely. Yeah. And things are going to change constantly, right? I mean, there's like an open loop to things that's going to constantly be changing. And, you know, one of your favorite books is also certainly now, but I mean, it already was, but I read it again. Another favorite book of mine, The Alchemist. I read it again, and I cannot recommend it enough if you're out there, specifically about this, because there's not a wrong decision, right? Like the universe, it basically like calibrates based on the decision, right? And there's no wrong way. It's, you know, I was on the phone with someone a few weeks ago, and they're like, well, my heart's been wrong before. And I was like, oh, really? Let's out with it then. And so they're like, well, it led me to do this thing. And then I said, well, then what did that lead to? You know, and a book like The Alchemist really highlights this idea that, you know, the universe will lead us to something which, you know, is a lesson for us, or a place to learn and gather, and then go to that next place, and then go to that next place. It really has our best interest in mind when we don't know what our best interest is. So it's not that your heart's wrong. It's that maybe you need a few new skills. You need to go through some sacrifices, some challenges to get to the point to be ready to get to that next level where you want to be. For me, it's been that way. You know, we get frustrated. We want overnight success. We want everything to happen right now. We want to blow up or whatever, which I don't really which I can't blame people for wanting to be successful. That's good. But can you imagine? So one of the things that I'm very grateful about is when I was a musician, I wanted to be very successful as a musician, and I didn't really get that. There was definitely an opportunity, and then everything imploded in our band and all this drama and stuff. And looking back on it now, I'm like, dude, I'm so glad that didn't work out, because I would have destroyed myself. I would have completely destroyed myself. And I've talked to a lot of people who have kind of been through the same, you know, they're like, man, I'm so glad that I didn't get what I wanted, you know, in that moment, because I couldn't have handled it. It's like the person that wins the lottery and then they spend it all. You know, the person that, you know, attains this level of success and then they self-destruct. Because there's no happiness in that success, as it were, right? The happiness really, or I would say even a better word, fulfillment, that comes from living a meaningful life, in my opinion, and really, you know, helping other people.
Amen.
Get to where they're
Amen.
going.
I so agree with you there. And I think my experience with music is really similar. I think when I had some really big opportunities, had those blown up, I was such a people pleaser and so insecure in some ways. In some ways, I was very confident. In some ways, I was so insecure that my feeling is I would have been a ship with no anchor and gone, hey, you said you're going to help me here. Yes, I'll conform to what you say I need to do in order to be successful. You have an idea. I should conform to do that. And I would be so miserable and so off course and so out of balance. You know, I feel like the kind of success I want it to be rooted in self-worth and something that is unshakable and not dependent on other people's opinions of me. but really my opinion of myself. And that is easier said than done, because I am somebody who definitely, like, words of affirmation is my love language. I like to be liked. I like to make other people happy. I like to make other people feel loved. Like, that is my default personality, but it's not sustainable, because not everybody's going to like us. Not everybody's going to agree with us. Not everybody is going to be like, hey, you're badass. And so I think it's so important that we get to a point where we go, who am I? And do I like who I am? And if not, what changes can I make?
Yeah, that's so good. I couldn't agree more. I have a lot of those similar struggles that you do, you know. I'm wondering.
You're so cut from the same cloth.
I know. Are you an Enneagram type 2? Have you done the
I'm a
Enneagram?
3.
Okay, you're a 3.
I'm a
Okay, that
3,
makes sense.
but I think
Okay.
I might be a 3-2.
3 wing 2. Yeah, I'm a 2 wing 3. So yeah, we
Of
definitely
course.
have.
Yes, I feel like we've probably been friends in so many past lifetimes, Owen. This is like our thousandth lifetime together. I mean, I remember can I tell the story really quick?
Yeah.
I remember when I first met you and I had a premonition, and it probably wasn't a premonition. It was probably a memory of like, oh, I know this dude. But we were at the last resort and my father-in-law was with me. He found out you were a musician and he was trying to introduce us. And after we got introduced, I was like, I'm going to work with that guy. I don't know how, but I'm going to work with that guy. And then we worked together and it was awesome.
It was so much fun. Yeah, actually he came in and I think he maybe
So much fun.
yeah, and I love Sam, and you know, Sam's definitely his father's son. Great sense of humor. He comes in. I think he tipped me $20 or something. I'm behind the bar, and he's like, "Hey, Jaclyn Steele's gonna come in," and I'm like, well, "I know that name. I've definitely, you know, I'd read your name in the paper and knew you were, you know, out there doing your thing, you know, singer songwriter. You had a band for a while and things like that." So I was like, "I'm familiar with her, actually." You know, he's like, "Can you kind of make a fuss when she comes in and just kind of." You know, and I was like, yeah, of course I can. Yeah, I'll go get the dishwasher and the rest of the kitchen staff to do the same thing, right? I love a big production. And so you came in and I gushed a little bit in advance, you know. So it turned out, it turned out to be accurate. But yeah, like we laughed a lot there. And then unrelated, maybe a month or two later, you and Sam had come in to another restaurant that I was working at behind the bar, the Provisions, and came and sat at the bar. And then we started talking about music, and you were like, talking about how you had a band and, you know, things kind of
Imploded.
Just weren't going. And I was like, hey, you know, if you're interested in making music, my friend and I just got a free studio.
Owen, that whole situation was so divine, because that week I had said to Sam, I was like, I want to get back in the studio and I want to record some music, but I have no idea how I'm going to do that. I don't know who I need to work with at this point, because I wasn't like super crazy about some of the music that was being recorded in the studios. Not that it wasn't good. It was good. It just wasn't my style. Mm-hmm. And so I put out that intention, like, I want to record some music and I have no idea how I'm going to record it. And that same week, and at that point too, I didn't have like money. I didn't have money to be, you know, laying down for a record. And so I met you and you offered up your studio, and I was like, wow, this is something only God can orchestrate. And then we did a work trade where I helped you and your mom market stuff and do a website, and you created these beautiful songs for me. I mean, oh, Owen, our whole friendship has been like divine little, whatever you want to call them, interventions or blips or encouragements. It's just been so cool.
Yeah, it's way cool. And maybe, I think that's part of the reason why. Who knows? Yeah, I'm with you on the lifetime thing too. But I had so much fun. I really needed to, at that point, you know, it was really helpful for me too, to like, because I had only produced stuff that we've done, like the heavy metal rock kind of stuff. And it was like really cool to like do something different. And I learned a lot from working with you, and we had some happy accidents even in the studio. I remember, like, there were
Oh my gosh, so many happy
weird things that were happening, and I'm like, well, let's just record it, whatever, you know. And it turned out to be
lots of burp sounds because I burp a lot.
It's so funny. We were just making fart sounds in the studio. This, like, I have it in my Instagram story right now. Sean's up there, you know, and he's like doing an overdub of, you know, or whatever. He's like, dude, I've been making fart sounds since I was 12. I got this, you know. And
I may seem like a girl, but I'm actually a 12-year-old boy in here. Anytime there's a fart anywhere, I cannot contain myself. When I taught first grade too, I co-taught because I taught special education, and my co-teacher would get so mad when the boys in the class would fart, and I'd have to almost excuse myself from the room because I would be laughing so hard, and I was like, I can't undermine her authority, but oh my gosh.
Well, you're gonna love this sketch then. Yeah, it's so funny. I remember I was working to train to learn to be an outward bound instructor, and I'll never forget this because, like, we all like basically slept under one just large tarp, and so the guys were all farting all day and just laughing and being stupid, and then and the girls are like, they're so immature, and then we'd all be sleeping at night, you know, and then all the girls would be holding it in all day, and I swear to God, they would just be farting and snarting. They would be snarting all night, just cute snore, and then just blowing it to smithereens, just big expressions of flash.
There was like some wind flow because under a tarp and that kind of stuff, that can be like a nice fart sack.
Oh man, we could have hotboxed that thing quick, you know.
No, there are moments where I have such flashes of rage with Sam, where I'll get in bed and he doesn't warn me, and I lift the covers up, and I'm like, dude, that is so rude. You could have at least given me a little bit of warning. My nostril hairs are on fire.
It's like high pitched. The Dutch oven. It's a real thing. And I'm sorry, Jaclyn.
It is. I also had a flash of rage. I'm sorry, this is taking a disgusting turn, but I feel like you'll also appreciate this. Before we got on the podcast, I was like, oh, I'll go to the bathroom really quick so that I don't have to go during the podcast. And I walk into the bathroom barefoot, and I'm like, I really hope that what I just stepped in is water and not my husband's drip off after he goes to the bathroom. But I washed my feet all over again just in case. But I was like, there's so many wonderful things about cohabitating with somebody that you love. So many wonderful things. But the downsides sometimes give me large but short flashes of rage.
I understand that. It's funny to think about, you know, talking about this particular topic. It's funny to think about all kinds of just the weird sort of gross things that we all are pretty nasty. Let's just be honest and say what it is, you know. It's like the other day I went into this bathroom, and I don't know, something about the lighting in that bathroom. You could just see all the spray, right? Like, so I'm standing there at the urinal and you know, they even have these things that like soften the flow of your stream, you know.
Yeah.
It's supposed to like buffer it, but whatever, somehow with the light, I don't know if they had a black light in there or something. It was just bizarre. It was the way it was lit, and I was just seeing all these little specks, you know. It was like they were going everywhere, you know, and I'm like, oh my God, we're just walking around just covered in this stuff, you know. It's like I think somebody once told me, who was in the science field, that they went into their like chemistry class or biology class or something, and the first thing that the professor says that was that the entire world is covered in a thin layer of shit.
Oh, literally and figuratively, or
yeah, literally, yeah.
Oh my gosh. And I was like a germaphobe before COVID started. I mean, I know I'm gross at times because like girls are gross too, but I am somebody who like washes my hands 18,000 times a day, and I take a lot of showers, and they just, you know, like to be clean.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
You wash your feet when you think you might have stepped in something. That's hilarious. I would have just been like, nope, that was definitely water, and just gone on about my day. Definitely water. I know for a fact.
No, I'm a little OCD. I'll obsess about it. And then if I didn't wash it off, I would be like, well, I like to sit cross-legged on the bench, and then I'm going to get the remnants on the cloth seat. And then when I walk into the kitchen, the remnants are going to be, I mean, there's a little OCD happening there.
Yeah. But I mean, you're not wrong though. It's not like you're delusional about it. It's like that professor maybe had a little bit of a point. Which I don't know. I don't know what's so funny about it either, but I am like a 12-year-old boy on the inside too. I mean, like, here we are in a, super expensive studio with this fancy, directional, microphone that's super cardioid, and we're making fart sounds into it, only my life, would this be happening. And
that's why I love you so much, because you do all this like deep, cool, really transformative work, but then you also let loose and have fun, and you're so funny.
Well, I don't know any other way to do it, if we're being honest, right? You got to be honest to
we
get
have to. Yeah, and nobody can be like, as much as I love that Zen space, and like when I'm doing deep meditation work in my head, I'm like, I never want to leave this feeling. The truth is, as humans in this very dense body, we're so many things. And if we try to only be one thing all the time, it's impossible. And we need levity and laughter. And I feel like that raises our vibration so much. Whether you think farts are funny or not, doing something that is funny regularly helps us move through the rest of our lives with such joy.
Yeah, it does. And if you don't think farts are funny, please stop watching my content, because eventually we're going to meet a crossroads and we're just not going to get along anymore. Not everybody has a sense of humor. Let's just be honest about it. Let's just say what it's is.
True.
And
it's so true. I have one more funny story. Can I tell it?
Of course.
So Sam and I have been living in an RV for almost 10 months now. This has never happened. We were outside watching the sunset like an old married couple. And all of a sudden we heard this super loud beeping, and we walk in and we realize our carbon monoxide detector has gone off. So we look at each other and we're like, that's odd. That's never happened. And Sam immediately starts Googling like what sets off a carbon monoxide detector if it's not carbon monoxide, because he tested it and it turned out we did not have a carbon monoxide leak. And the first thing that comes up is a question from users going, can farts set off a carbon monoxide detector? First of all, the answer is yes. Second of all, another one of the questions was, can dog farts set off carbon monoxide detectors? Second funny part of this story is, yes, dog farts can set off carbon monoxide detectors. And guess who was in our RV and whose cute little butts are carbon monoxide detector height?
They're making a roux.
My dog. So our hypothesis is that they walked by, crop dusted the carbon monoxide detector and set it off.
I believe that's probably exactly what happened,
Oh, it made my day. It really made my day.
Oh my God, that's so funny. I love that, probably we've been on for half an hour, 15 minutes has been farts. That's great.
Sorry. We're going to get into some super deep stuff, which we have before the podcast. So I love it so much, but gosh, I just cannot pass up a good fart rabbit hole.
I can't either. And just anything that's funny, because I really believe that to laugh is divine, So, one thing that's really, like you said, it's about, we do this deep transformative work, but if you can't have a sense of humor about it, I don't know that you're really going to get down deep.
It's not as holistic.
It's really not. And there are parts of yourself that you're probably not willing to face,
Oh, I'm so glad you brought that up. So last week I had a really big week. I'm in a coaching program too. So I offer coaching, but I also still do like a lot of healing work myself, because I feel like the more I heal, the more I will be a useful tool. Well, I had a run-in with my coach, and it wasn't like a huge deal, but it was enough of a run-in where I was like, I'm not feeling good about this. And it was eating me up. And talked again with her later that week, and we uncovered several things. One of which is my ego's desire to be right. Like, I like being right, like so many of us do. But here's the thing, if I can step back and instead of being attached to being right, get curious about what I'm feeling, what I'm being triggered about, and go, well, that's weird. My insecurity just flared up there. Why is that? And just start asking those questions from a place of levity and curiosity rather than shame or guilt, or I have to be perfect, or I have to get this right, or I'm offering coaching, so I have to be perfect.
Oh my God.
Nobody is ever perfect, but I think the best coaches are super honest. And part of my path in becoming a more whole, healed human is understanding my ego and my ego's very large desire to be right. And now that I'm aware of that and I know that, when it crops up, I can go, well, do I actually need to be right in this situation? And does it even matter if I'm right? Like, what's the ultimate goal here? Is it to help someone? Is it to have a harmonious relationship with my husband? Like, what's the real intention? And if it doesn't matter if I'm right or wrong, I mean, I don't want to spend a lot of energy on that.
No, that's good. I love that. You know, I argue that it's our most important need to be right. And so, you know, if you're wrong about like sustenance, for instance, if you try to eat rocks and you're like, this is good for me, then you're not going to survive very long. So survival is directly related to being right or wrong, right? At least at a very basic level. And then I really liked your point about coaches and feeling like you got to be perfect to be a coach and all that kind of stuff, and imposter syndrome can really set in. And even just the idea or the term coach itself, I think is so
I don't
hilarious.
Like it.
Yeah, I hate it, but that's why I try to put it tongue in cheek, right? Like, get coached, come on, you know, I'm blowing the whistle or whatever. I need to make another sketch actually about that. I'm trying to do try to do one with like some testimonials, you know, like Oscar, the former Grouch. You know, we worked together for a while, and he wound up creating a bunch of trash can homes in the lower part of Oakland. You know what I mean?
Want me to do a testimonial as Brittany? I'd be so happy to. Bootsy Greenwood helped me so much. It was transformative.
I'm still not free, but I'm doing so much better.
Oh, my heart hurts for her.
Bless her
but
heart.
I still love doing the Brittany impressions.
Oh, it's so good. You do a lot of really good impressions.
Thank you.
You have a knack for that, which is
well. I think it's really fun, and you know, in the work that I do, so much of it is more heart-based and serious. So breaking out with like a silly gif or like like impression or something, it's just like it allows me to just be me too, you know. And my base personality, as you know, is like somebody sitting upside down in a chair going like, what do we do next?
Yeah, I'm just sitting in this spinny chair. Yeah, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, that was it.
I'm sitting in this spinny chair right now, and Paul just Red Bulled me. And I'm just like, as soon as I get off this interview, I want you to spin me around in this thing and see how dizzy I can get, you know?
Exactly. And that, my friends, is how Owen and I made music.
That's right. Like, I'm sober, but I might be missing a few brain cells, right? Like, I don't know. Maybe this breath work but the breath work stuff is interesting too. That was something that I wanted to maybe touch on a little bit as well. And that sense of humor. Because like, I have my friend Jay Zbarth, and he has a place called Flote in Toronto. And bless everybody up there in Canada, man. We're feeling for you. But what he does breathwork classes via Zoom on Sundays. And it's one of those things that's very intense, right? It's very intense and can be very serious. And he does such a great job. He takes you through this really specific breath training. It's not like any that I've ever done. And then at the end, he leads you to a meditation that's guided, that's kind of like a release. And then he even played us a song a couple times that I've done.
Oh.
It's so cute. But also like such a cool dude, super masculine, and willing to be that vulnerable to lead somebody through this whole process. And the last one that I did at the end, where he was kind of doing our like guided meditation session, I was just laughing and crying at the same time in my bed, just like my body didn't know how to react, it was like but just
so much.
experiencing that, and the humor and the levity of the silliness and the temporal nature of life, and then the heavy denseness of the getting deep into our just completely just mixed together. And it was like this crazy experience that was completely unique. And I think it's really important to hang on to that, to stick in there with our inner child and let ourselves be silly and let ourselves have fun, because this stuff doesn't have to be all the time so serious. And in fact, when we get into that sort of serious mindset, that's when I think a lot of these traps or pendulums or
yes,
they really take hold. Guilt, duty, obligation. If you can laugh at something, you don't feel like you're obligated by it. You aren't guilty, and you don't have any sort of duty to it. You're not being manipulated. It doesn't have power over you. You have power over it. You can minimize it by making a joke about it.
Oh yeah, there's such power in doing all the deep work, but such power in laughter and vulnerability, like allowing ourselves to just be open enough to think something is ridiculous or think something we do is ridiculous.
Yeah, like so much of comedy is like people speaking the unspoken, like admitting something that nobody wants to admit to, and then they say it, and then everybody laughs because you're not supposed to, and that's what sort of makes it funny. So getting into those places of acknowledgement of something that is embarrassing maybe can really open up huge worlds. It's really like the more personal, the more universal. It's like if I can find something very specific about an experience that I've had and I share that, very often somebody will be like, oh my God, I've had the exact same experience. That happened to me. And it's like, whoa, I was just being specific about my experience. And then now all of a sudden there's an open sort of discussion, and there's sort of a whole healing that can take place just because everybody's starting to acknowledge it as well.
Oh, it's so connective. It makes us feel like we're all in this together, rather than, oh, well, that person has it all together and I need to get my ducks in a row, so to speak, because I'm a hot mess or whatever. We are all in this state of having a lot together in our lives and also a lot that is not, because in my opinion, that's the nature of life. Life is changing all the time. Bob Dylan said, there's nothing so constant as change. And so to create this illusion or try and portray this illusion that we have everything all together and life is great and blah, 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 blah. Life is great. And sometimes life is really hard. It's all the things. And I think the more we make space to embrace all the things, the easier life becomes, because we're not trying to hold on to a specific piece or hold on to a specific portrayal of who we want the world to think we are, versus like, here is who I am. I'm trying my best. I'm loving my hardest, but I also still F up sometimes.
And I think that's so relatable. Like nobody, I don't know. I mean, I might be wrong about this, but I don't really want to know someone as they want to be perceived. I want to know them as who they really are. I know your farts stink bad. I know you Dutch oven on purpose, you dirty thing. How could you, Sam? But I still love him. He's still a great man.
I wish you could see the look on his face too. He goes like this. It's so cute and annoying.
I have had so much fun with him. Like I was thinking just the other day, I was like, oh, I was thinking about this podcast, and both of y'all. And just, not too long ago, he and I just had like a great day. I don't know where you were, out of town somewhere, and we were just like literally just vegging all day and watching football and eating like wings or whatever. It just literally did nothing. And then I felt a little bit dirty at myself afterwards. Like, man, I really did nothing all day, but I really, really, really enjoyed it.
And if you ask him, like, hey, do you feel a little dirty with yourself after doing nothing all day? He'd be like, no, I deserve it.
That's right.
Which is why I also love him so much, because I feel like he brings balance to my workaholic tendencies.
Yeah, I definitely had those too. And it was one of those days where, we both needed it, and it was so nice.
You guys work so hard.
Mm-hmm.
We are trying to make so many things happen. And if we don't allow ourselves time to rest, it's not sustainable, and we're not going to be able to enjoy any of it. And I'm saying this to myself as much as I'm saying it to anybody else, because one thing that is so common in all the healing work that I'm doing is people going, Jaclyn, you are trying to love everybody else into their healing, but are you allowing yourself to sleep and rest and drink water and like all the effing basics? So I know that I need to do a better job of stopping myself.
Yeah, I do too. And as things are beginning to sort of, I guess, like the pace of things are starting to ramp up, there's more opportunities, there's more things happening. It's like, it's even more important to be able to do that. It's been kind of interesting to because you got to say no to some things, right? And then you have to, decide what it is that you're going to kind of push forward. But it becomes, I think, even more and more important to really rest and to go through. Yeah, like I mentioned just before the show started, to allow ourselves to go through those 5 stages of grief when we enter into even a new paradigm, right? Like, I feel like I'm really entering into a new, way of life. It's a different way that I've lived, based on the past sort of paradigm that I had. So as I go into this sort of new map, this new sort of territory, I have to be aware of that I'm leaving something behind, and that it's okay to grieve what once was. Like, going into this super uncertain time, and we've all had a lot of practice dealing with uncertainty over the past year or two. And so that's helpful. But going into it, it's okay, as you expand your comfort zone, like you were talking about before, we want to put ourselves in this place where there's a little bit of fear, but also excitement. That's good. That's how we know we're going toward our purpose, right? Like, facing those fears, expanding our comfort zone, not too much, but a little bit at a time, paso a paso, step by step. And it's okay to, feel a little bit of grief, and, you got to go through those stages. That's like, first is denial, then anger, then depression, then bargaining, and then finally acceptance. And, you are going to be a little bit sad to say goodbye. It's like going on vacation, and you're going to see everybody again the next year or something, but you still are sad at the end of it. You got to go through that and process it. And the same is true as we go to a different stage or phase in life.
Oh, you're so right. You are so right. I mean, I'm thinking about Sam and I having lived in this RV for 10 months. And there's a big part of us that's like, okay, with 3 dogs in here and 2 people, we are ready to stretch our legs. Yet I look out my window and it's like 360-degree views. So, life, I think decision-making can be simple, but I think life as a whole brings on a complicated array of emotions. And I think the more we make space for them and just allow them to be whatever they are. I hired a coach, and she is extremely successful. I mean, like, making $250,000 a month successful and more. And she was talking to me, and she was like, sometimes I just lay on my floor because I can't absorb my joy that I'm feeling. And then sometimes I need to cry. And you don't always know like why that's happening. And I think as humans, we want to pinpoint it and we want to drill it down. But in my opinion, it could be lifetimes of different things that we've come into, and now we're expressing them or coming up against them again in this lifetime. And it can be confusing and hard. But my experience is the more that I trust fall into it and the more that I allow it to flow through me, the easier it is to let it go, rather than pushing it down or denying it or trying to make the feeling something different in that moment. There's something to be said for surrender.
There really is. Yeah, it's beautiful. It's almost like, I don't know if this makes sense or not, but in my own mind, it kind of does. Like getting to the point where it's so free will that it's determinism again. like leaning into that sort of divine will, right? But there's nothing that really feels more there's nothing that really feels more like sorry, it's just the maid. It's fine. don't mind him. But there's nothing that really feels more connective, right, than to really be almost like this, like you said, like a useful tool of service, right? Like I don't know. It's almost even hard to put into words, because like, especially as much as I've looked into spirituality and freedom, right, and how important free will is and freedom for human beings, freedom really being the expression of the true essence of life and spirituality. It seems kind of counterintuitive or even paradoxical or wrong to say like leaning into this sort of like almost divine, or which sounds maybe even a little bit important too, but like leaning into this, just this sort of path that is you, that's laid out for you, where you can kind of like surrender into it and just be like, well, I'm just going to go this way because it just feels right. Like things are sort of lining up, and then they start to, and you can always choose not to go that route. You can always choose a different path. You can always dip or veer. And like we were talking about earlier, the universe will calibrate. It will, dial up what it needs to do to change this or that, and to get the message across, to do what it needs to do. It's a living, breathing thing. It's not this like concrete thing that's built and here it is. And that's it. That's all.
Yeah,
That's all there is
fluid.
to it. Right. It's fluid. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So it feels really good to start to like lean into that, like almost purposeful sort of divine will, so to speak, kind of thing.
I agree. It takes the pressure off, rather than being like, I, Jaclyn, have to make all my own decisions and make all the right ones.
Yeah.
It takes the fun out of it. It takes the joy out of it. It puts so much pressure on us, rather than, hey, I'm going to try my best. I'm going to tap into my intuition and I'm going to run with it. Yeah, and I might be wrong, and that's okay, because even if I am wrong, I'm going to learn something in the process. One thing I wanted to bring up too was along the lines of what was it? It's coming. Oak Street co-creating. And I remember. So often as humans, we ask for things, and then when they're delivered and the universe gives them to us on a silver platter, we're like, oh no, that can't be right. That was too. And then we retract and we're like, oh, that felt like I was way too powerful. I'm not in. Whoa, that's really scary. Versus going, holy, can I swear on this show?
Absolutely. Please be yourself.
Versus going, holy shit, that just happened. So for the last couple of months, Sam and I have been saying, God, we want some stability. We're literally living on a skate. We're living on wheels. And when the wind blows, the whole thing goes, we really want some stability. And so we've been looking for a rental where we want to live. It's been really hard because so many people are moving to this area, etc. Blah, blah, blah. We've just finally went, okay, God will provide a place when God is ready to provide a place. Well, guess what? We found a place, and in the street name is the word oak. The very definition of oak is stability. We've been praying for stability. God literally gives us a house on a street that means stability. I mean, God God meets us so intimately, just like earlier in this conversation where I was like, God, I want to record some music. And that same week I met you. Before that, I said, God, I want to learn how to write songs. And within a short period of time, I was apprenticing for a songwriter in California. I mean, like, we are so freaking powerful, but then we also get scared when we recognize our own power. So for anybody listening, I bring that up to go, hey, it's normal to get scared when you start realizing the magnitude of your power, but also don't retract so much that you stop using it.
That's so good. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and just being comfortable or allowing yourself to experience that feeling too is huge, right? Like just let it be, right? Like so much of our society, I think, is like us trying to like medicate our trauma, you know? And
Oh, yes.
and in those moments where we're like challenged and confused and all that stuff, it's like, don't retreat. You're right there. You're on the precipice of it. If you will just sit with it, because it's really not about letting go per se, right? Like it's more about just acceptance, you know?
Conversation with it.
Yeah, exactly like that. So I have the same. I'm not saying this because I have mastered it, but I do know it's a very real thing. And in those moments, like now, I have that little voice in the back of my head that's like, oh yeah, remember when you said experience it, right? And so like now at least it's more awareness, and then over time we just develop more and more awareness through this practice of mindfulness and whatever sort of method that you use. So really just allowing that resistance to be there. You can even talk to it. It might sound a little
I do it all the time.
yeah
All the time.
yeah, absolutely. And just talk to your subconscious mind or whatever, and ask the question. And that just asking the question alone, you might not get the answer immediately, but I swear it will come. You'll wake up in the night in the cold sweat and just all of a sudden, bam, there, and it'll hit you in the face,
I could not agree more. And I'm so glad that you brought that up. That's something I've been experimenting with so much. Like, hey, anxiety, I feel you. Like, why are you here? And what are you trying to teach me? And generally the answers are super gentle. It may be something like, I'm afraid of being seen, or I'm afraid that if I'm seen, people will bully me or not understand me, or family members will remove love, and those could be things that are absolutely not true, but our subconscious mind so often wants to keep us little because that's where it's safe.
Right, exactly. What the thinker thinks, the prover proves, and the prover is the subconscious mind for sure. And it's looking out for us. It's got your best interests at heart. It's not out there to sabotage you.
No.
In fact, when it sabotages you, like me not being successful at music, is probably for your betterment, right? Like, because hey, dude, you're naive. You have no idea how much power people could hold, and what kind of a situation you're going to find yourself in. I would have probably self-destructed, like I said earlier. So the fact that everything did blow up the way that it did was probably my subconscious, or in part my subconscious mind being like, look, dude, you're not actually ready for this level of quote unquote success or recognition or whatever it's called, because you can't even probably understand it anyway. You think it's something that it's not. You see so many people who are musicians or celebrities or influencers, which I hate that word so much, but or I really just, I don't know. I feel like it's just, I don't know, very telling. Maybe it's just very telling, right? If they were telling you the truth, would they be called influencers? I'm not so sure that would be the case. But anyway, just really that comfort zone is your subconscious, right? And that's kind of where it's like, I'm comfortable here. So we have to ease it out of there, but at the same time, what it's doing is it's really trying to protect us. It's really trying to protect us, and that's okay. And talk to it, ask the question, what are you afraid of? Why do I feel this way? And even if those answers, they don't come immediately, just asking the question, it will prompt those answers. So
And creating that awareness is such a huge part of creating harmony in your own life. If you don't have a baseline to even understand, like, I'm triggered right now, and that trigger is giving me anxiety, or I have anxiety, and that's what's triggering this, that awareness is such a useful tool in self development and in healing. And just to develop that awareness can take, what my healer said, lifetimes. So if you're listening to this and you are aware of what you're feeling, and you don't feel like you know why you're feeling that, that's okay. The fact that you are becoming aware of how you feel at all shows just how much progress that you have have created in your life.
That's so exactly true, because it's a practice. They don't call it a practice for no reason. It's a practice because it's a develop. You got to develop and develop and develop and develop. And then instead of believing or pretending to believe so that you can manifest a parking spot or whatever, you start to understand what is happening in the world, how the universe works. Hearing that, what does he call it in The Alchemist? It's like the language of the universe, right? And so when you know, it's so good. Yeah. And when you know what it is, dude, you can just take that next step and take that next step, and it gets easier and easier and easier. Are you ever at some place of perfection? Probably not, but who cares? Just the awareness that you know that it's there is the next, that's the next step, is shining the light on it. So that's just the next step in the process of the practice. And then it gets easier, and then you get more skill. It's like anything else. It's like, I'm here at my buddy Paul's house. His daughter is so cute. She is still learning to eat. So, she gets food all over her face. She slobbers all over herself. It's adorable, but it won't be long. And she'll be, she won't be gumming. She won't be gumming Chex Mix in a year. You know what I'm saying? She'll be eating, with proper manners and not spilling it all over herself, and it's the same with us, with whatever it is that we are embarking on, and understanding ourselves and understanding the nature of reality and how the universe works. Once we start to test it and see the result, and test it and see the result, well, it only takes a few times of getting that into your mouth properly,
And I think it's the state that our minds and our souls want to be in. And so there's a recognition there with that universal language. It's not a language that is like Chinese or Japanese or something that's like really hard for us as English speakers to learn. And I want to say this too. Sorry, my dogs just started to whine a little bit.
That's okay.
Of course, it's because Sam's out there and they want to see him.
Aww.
And anytime I'm like, hey, Sam, I'm going to need quiet for a little bit, he leaves the dogs with me. But the universal language is one of love. If you are feeling messages of fear, that is not the universe talking to you. The universe never speaks in a language of fear or doubt or scarcity. It's always love. That doesn't mean that you're not going to experience difficult things, but it's all out of love, like a parent allowing their kid to fall when they're learning to walk. You have to learn to fall so you can learn how to have proper balance. Mm-hmm. And so, there's nothing like scary about that universal language. It's like a pillowy backdrop or net for everything that you do.
That's right. Yep. And every time that you fail, right, that's really just a lesson and you're gaining more strength and ability and understanding the relationship that you have, right, to reality. And so that's like my big thing is like, let's understand reality and start there. And then we can really begin to do the work on ourselves, because if you don't have an accurate map, you're never going to know where you are, much less where you want to go.
Yeah.
So,
and self-awareness is just such a huge part of that. You can want to do self-development as much as you want, but if you are unwilling to realize and admit why you're where you are right now, or the patterns that you're engaging in that got you there, it's going to be really hard to create some traction and some change. So self-awareness, gosh, it can be a difficult process waking up to it. But then once you do, and you allow yourself to get curious about it, instead of allowing the ego to take hold, like, I'm not perfect, I don't have it all figured out. And you just go, wow, this is weird. Why do I feel like this? It becomes fun. It's like a treasure hunt.
Yeah, it does. It becomes like this like engaging sort of game, and sometimes, you fall short, or I feel like I do still from time to like quite often, really from time to time. I'll like instill. I think one of the biggest mistakes that I personally have made is trying to change too many things at once, trying to bite off more than I can chew.
Same.
Yeah. I mean, probably all of us, right? It's like, well, I need to change everything right now. It's like, dude, take it easy, bro. Like,
or I have like Alicia Keys playing on in the background. I'm like, this girl is on fire. And I'm like doing all the things at once. And then by the end of the song, I'm like, I'm totally burnt out for like 8 weeks.
Totally. Yeah. So little bite-sized chunks is what I'm learning it really about. And the fact that you can take 2 steps forward and a step back, and that's still 1 step forward. So it's okay, it's okay. Having that day of rest on the couch, watching football and eating who knows what. We probably ordered like 3 things off of Uber Eats that day. It was really, really gluttonous.
That is like his favorite form of self-care.
Mine too, because I love watching college football. I just love it. It's so fun.
Yeah.
I've always have.
I don't love watching college football, if I'm honest, but I do love ordering Uber Eats. So I will lay there and support.
I don't expect many people to necessarily like college football. It's just like always been that one way that I could always talk to something about my dad, right? Like that pregnant pause, right? We've avoided because when we talk about Georgia football, let's just talk about football, Dad. And I have a good relationship. So with my dad. So I'm half joking, but in those moments where it's quiet, and there's not a whole lot to talk about, it's something that we definitely do share and both enjoy, and I don't know, some people hate college football. That's fine. You don't have to like it. But you should try to find something that you can kind of just disengage from all the
It's rest the brain. Rest the brain.
It's a lot. It can be a lot. But I want to talk about you and your coaching and kind of get an idea, because I'm sure you're incredible. And you started doing this how long ago and kind of what inspired you? Please do tell me, because the last you were kind of doing so many things. Many things.
Yeah. Well, I've always had an entrepreneurial spirit, and I've always been into self-development. So I've had several businesses, but on the side, I've had a blog, or I've been doing coaching work for a long time. But because I had those imposter syndrome things, like, well, I know I'm doing this work myself, but who's going to listen to me? And can I actually charge for this work, etc.? I didn't allow myself to make that a possibility. And then when I moved to Arizona, I hired a couple of healers, and they were like, excuse me, why aren't you doing this work professionally? Because you're already doing everything. You're just not charging for it. And I was like, And it's interesting too, because I got to a point financially where I was like, I really want to make a change. I'm burnt out branding and marketing. I want to make a change, but I don't know what I want to do. And in so many books, it's like usually the first thing that is there, that is available, is what you are supposed to be doing, but it's what you've been denying that you should do. And I've done this work forever, Owen. I just didn't want to make it official, but I made it official, and it has been not without its challenges for sure, but such a beautiful process, because I love deep conversations and I love connecting with people, but also I enjoy going to those places with people that they don't necessarily see themselves, or they don't feel comfortable going with other people who haven't been there yet. And so in some ways it feels kind of like I'm a bridge for some very connective and healing things. And so that's kind of the like evolution of what has happened. And then my specific coaching style, it is all really tailored to my client and their vision for their life. Like my ultimate goal is to help them feel and be limitless, which is a scary process at times to like take off so many different attachments. But ultimately, I feel very much like that's what we are called to do in this lifetime, to create enough limitless in ourselves and others to do that work in our soul contract that we were born in this world to bring to fruition. So it's peeling back layers. It's a lot of encouraging and love, a lot of asking questions, a lot of empowerment.
Yeah, you are a natural. Like I remember just we would go grab coffee or whatever, and then you'd be like, "Well, have you thought about this?" And I'd be like, "Oh my God, what a great idea!" You know, and whatever it be, you know, Instagram algorithm and or whatever, like questions that you know we were working on a podcast, or I'd be working on this or working on that. And one of the things that you always say to me is like, "You are the secret sauce. You are the secret
Yes.
sauce." I love that. I have to remember that, and want to share that with everybody out there. You know, if you're part of something, that's a great thing. And like, if you're anything like Jaclyn or I, it's really easy to erode boundaries, become part of a group, and kind of like lose your individuality. As a type 2 on the Enneagram, like that's the thing that I have to be pretty vigilant about, is really focusing on my own individuality and allowing myself to be you know, to be independent, and from there we can cultivate, you know, interdependence. And there's no way to skip from codependence. God, I've tried so many times, and that's really where I've, you know, messed up the most, is by trying to skip from codependence to interdependence, and there's just really no way to do that. So I can definitely vouch for your intuitive abilities, as well as just you're savvy about like all this stuff. Like you could just go on about the Instagram algorithm, like you can follow hashtags now. This is years ago, and I'm like, what does that even mean? I don't even know what that means, dude.
I can geek out on stuff. I'm just a curious person.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious about a lot of things, and that has served me well.
Yeah, me too. It's also made me spin my wheels a lot, but I'm not mad about it. You know, like that's been the sort of genesis of everything, is that curiosity. You know, like if you've ever done the Creature Comforts tour, have you ever done their tour over there at the brewery?
Oh, wow.
It's been a while, and I don't know if the same guy still does it, but I think it was Blake, if I'm not mistaken. And you know, they had this whole spiel that they would go through, because they talk about beer, but so much more. And it's been years since I've even been in. It's been a while since I've even been in that brewery. But the last tour that I did, my buddy Jordan came, and he's my prank producer friend, and we went through. He and Samantha, his partner, and they actually live in Alpharetta now, which is so cool. But we went up there to the brewery, and the guy he does this whole spiel. He's like, you know, your curiosity will lead to your passion, and your passion will lead to your purpose, and your purpose will lead you to a place where you can have the creature comforts. And that's where their whole, you know, kind of thing, that's their kind of mission.
Beautiful.
Yeah,
yeah,
it really is.
I know the tagline is "Get Curious," which I love.
Yeah, because that really is the beginning, right? And so the idea of like a self-directed or liberal education is that you are actively pursuing the things that you're interested in, right? And you're feeding your own soul whatever it is that it desires to consume. And so I love that. I always love that. It stuck with me. I mean, that was years ago, you know, when I first it was 2014.
Oh,
yeah.
It is so true.
It really is. And it was such a powerful message. I'll never forget that, even though it was
curiosity, passion, purpose.
Yeah.
Creature.
Yeah, it leads to the next thing. Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. And you can allow yourself to have those things once I feel like, you're comfortable enough with what you're giving out, that you're serving enough, or whatever it is, for me, it's that way, right? Like, I don't feel like I deserve anything unless I've given first, and I'm learning I know that I do deserve, more, but again, like, these are these subconscious sort of programs that are running underneath of us. So it takes some time to open this stuff up and expand our comfort. Yeah, it's okay. Yeah.
Oh, totally. It's all okay. Like, everything anyone is experiencing right now, like, well, I don't want to be too general about that. If you're like in a super traumatic situation, that's not okay. But when we feel whatever it is that we're feeling, like, it's part of the tapestry of the human experience. It's okay.
It's valid.
Pressure off.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's valid. Mm-hmm. Yep. You're allowed to feel the way that you feel. You're allowed to, have the view of the world that you want. And you're also allowed to change that. You're also allowed to say, hey, what parts of this are not serving me? How can I, improve? How could I experience the world in a different way? Because really the only way to climb up, and I've said this quite a few times, and I don't know that there exists another way, but it's really through gratitude, right? People talk about timeline jumping.
Yes.
It's like, I want to jump to a new timeline. I'm just going to fly off to somewhere amazing, some, other world, some other universe, in the ether. It's like, yeah, good luck. Good luck, bro. No, we're stuck here in the shared reality. Okay. Like, there's consensus reality that we're all experiencing, because, this is not a solipsistic universe. Okay. You're not the only one here. Now, if that were true, I guess you could just jump to whatever timeline. When you go and you dream, that's what we're kind of doing, right? We're jumping through all these little possibilities.
Yes.
But we're living in this, shared reality, this consensus world. So in order to elevate your timeline within this, like, the only way to do that is through gratitude. And, I talked to Daniel James last week. He's great. He's talking about, you just got to find, like, that one little grain of light that you can, like, hold on to, that one thing that you can be grateful for. And one thing that he pointed out last week, which I thought was brilliant, was that he said that, like, a lot of people sit down, they maybe do a gratitude practice, but they don't actually feel gratitude.
Yes. You got to feel it. You got to make space for it. Yeah.
Exactly. And that's the only way to really begin to, go up, So I don't know. It's really, really cool to think about. And I'm sure I appreciate all the free coaching that I got from you. I'm sure your clients
over the years, dude, we have counseled each other. And that is, again, one of the reasons I love you so much. I just feel like we've always been able to go deep quick. And it's just been such a beautiful, beautiful friendship to me.
Likewise. I just adore you. You're amazing. I hope you'll give Sam, like, the biggest hug. I need to text him. I just need to send him a message or something funny. Maybe I'll send him a fart joke or something. I don't know. I've got a few memes on the phone, believe it or not. I don't share a lot of those publicly, but
he shares them with me all the time. He'll find one, screenshot it, and then send it to me. And I can see his face when he's sending it, and it's the same fart face that he does when he hot box.
Oh, that's so good. Oh my God. Well, I really appreciate you taking the time to come and chill and chat and hang out with me on my 50th podcast.
I'm so honored. So honored. And I want to have you on my podcast too. So let's dream that up and make it happen.
I'm so game. Yeah, absolutely. Just let me know when and where, and I'll be there with bells on. And really, really excited for you guys. I'm glad y'all found a place in Arizona. So I hope and wish you all the best with your move. And I can't wait to see you in a few months. It really won't be that long.
I know. I can't wait. And we have a room for you. Anything you need, come stay with us. All of it.
Shoot, yeah. I've got a couple of friends in Phoenix. I'll try to put together a show out there and see if I can't, make some public fart jokes and maybe charge a few dollars a head, to talk about flatulence and spirituality, and how the two are basically the same thing. It's all ether, right?
Energy.
Yeah.
Energy release and energy intake.
Let it leave your body. Just let it go. And remember to do your
It's
laundry.
always great in yoga class when they say that and then somebody in the class farts. But here's the thing, I'm usually the only one that laughs and everybody else somehow holds it together. And I will laugh for like literally 5 minutes after that happens. I can't stop myself.
It's funny. I don't think you should have to. Yeah, it is hilarious. Oh my God. Yeah, it's so fun. I really, really can't, again, thank you enough. People can find you, JaclynSteele.com. What other ways can people kind of reach out, follow you on social media?
Sure. Yeah, so I'm very active on Instagram at Jaclyn Steele, JaclynSteele. And I am offering 30-minute coaching sessions too right now. And all of those links are in my Instagram bio. You can literally just click on it and book a session with me through Calendly. So if anybody's interested in that, I'd love to chat with you. But Instagram is a great place. My website's a great place. hello@jaclynsteele.com if you want to email me directly. I'm pretty like accessible on the internet.
Cool. That's amazing. Yeah. Well, there you go, everybody. Jaclyn Steele, one of my favorite human beings on the face of the planet. And I love you so much. You're wonderful. And I really appreciate you taking the time to come and be a part of this. Folks, check the links out in the bottom. I definitely linked Jaclyn's website. And again, on Instagram, contact at the cabin. I have a discovery call link in there if you want to work with me. And there's also a cool calendar that you can click on. Add that to your Google Calendar and it'll let you know when we're having public events. So thanks so much for, yeah, it's right. Simple, right? Like just add it in. I try not to put too many things on the calendar, but it's, but you'll be reminded. You'll be like, hey, there's a live podcast coming out, today, number 50. I put a bunch of exclamation points, like 6-7 lines of exclamation. I look for, I should have probably put some emojis next time. I'm going to Emoji Town.
A fart emoji. It's a person going like this and that cloud behind.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my God. So much.
That's how we're fueled on this podcast. This podcast is brought to you by farts.
Fuel. Yeah, check us out. Fueledbyfarts.com. We appreciate it, everybody. Take care out there.